Welcome, friends. This is Heather Carlisle, and as always, I like to think that we want to know ourselves, treasure life, and love others. So tonight is a very sticky topic, and I've needed to help many couples with this topic, and it's complicated. That's one of the reasons why it's so difficult for couples and for families. It's when parents don't agree about parenting. And it's interesting also in second marriages actually are more likely to divorce than first marriages. First marriages have a 50%, and second marriages then have a 40% divorce rate and a 70% if there are problems with stepchildren. So this is a great difficulty for all of us. Of course, we all want to do our very best for our children. We want to give the best parenting possible. And there are many theories, many teachers, many ideas, many traditions, and many different families that we come from. So parenting ideas are just huge and extremely complex. It's important that a couple be in agreement, and you probably know this. It's important for kids that their mom and their dad can't be used against each other, so that when they go to dad they hear one thing, and when they go to mom they hear the same thing, so they know their parents are in agreement and in alignment. Of course, there are all different kinds of kids and different needs that children have. So tonight I just want to give you an overview of the best that I know, the places where you can go. Jack and I both think of each other as curators. I think of myself as a curator, which means I don't want to reinvent the wheel when the wheel is already perfect. So I know many places where you can go online to find the best of the best. Now there are some where it's like, they have a piece of it. So I prefer to curate them for you and tell you these ones are the ones that are the highest level, the ones that you can really trust. So first of all, I want to show you, because I've made them all available to people on my website. So here you see the home page of my website. And if you want to find the parenting materials, one of the things you can do is, let's see here, where is it? Articles, and there's an index. So the index of my articles is very, very long. And so you don't want to weed through all those topics. And therefore, what I recommend that you do, it disappeared. Okay. What I recommend that you do is you go to this little magnifying glass, go in there and search on parenting. So I'm just typing in for you, parenting. And here we've got the little thumbnails for the blog posts I've written on parenting over the years. And there are quite a few pages of them. But look at what's right at the top. It's top parenting resources. I put this up in June 2018. And so if we click on that blog and we go to this entry, it's a short paragraph that I wrote introducing it. And then here is the list of the links, the best current links to the best sources to help you get the help of all the best experts in making decisions for how you want to parent. So if we're looking at when parents don't agree about parenting, of course, when people come to talk to me, or if they are in a discussion, the couple needs to find agreement. And sometimes they don't communicate well enough about it, and so they just continue to keep arguing. So when people argue, that means that, guess what? Their communication isn't good enough. So I can send you to all of these best places on the planet Earth in the English-speaking language to find the information that's best for you in terms of how to give our kids the best. But if you're arguing, then neither one of you is going to be heard, and we don't even know which one of you has which pieces that you both want to agree on. So the very first thing that I wanted to remind you of is, let's see, let me get rid of that. And I'll show you this. This is just a 2-page handout that I created on the overview of communication. Now, a lot of parents are not wanting to take a course in communication. The personality styles of each of the couple is going to determine what's going to work best for them. And sometimes you don't know that. Sometimes that's for me to help you with, or the best thing you can do is go to the Enneagram Institute and get your Enneagrams and talk about that, because that's usually the foundation of why you don't communicate well. And if you can't talk and communicate about parenting, you're going to go around and around and around and just going to get more and more heated or discouraged. So this is the introduction to just looking at communication. And if you have a specific question or comment, please just go to my website where you are, type it, and ask it of me, because I'm always interested in your specific questions. So here are 2 pages on basic communication. You need to be able to complain instead of fight. So we all have disagreements. We're not all the same, and we need to be able to respect each other. So we know that we're not going to agree on everything, but if we're parenting, we really do need to agree how we're going to handle taking care of our kids. And so this is, if there's no other reason for you to learn to communicate better, this is the most important one, I think. And so this is just a 1-page sheet on the 10 communication needs for couples. So the real need is to share a need or a grievance, and you may have a grievance about how the other person parents. So the disagreement is complain one at a time. Do not cross-complain. That's conflict. So we need acceptance of each other as we are, not try to change each other. So be accepting rather than judging. Be civil, be open, genuinely listen rather than zapping each other. You need to make sure that you're going to be heard. And so if you're one of those people that says, oh, I'm a great storyteller, I just tell stories. And what if your spouse is not a storyteller and they want to go right to the bottom line and just cut to the chase? That right there is going to be really irritating to both of you. So you want to be heard and you don't want to interrupt. The real need to communicate is, number 1, be willing to listen. If you want to communicate, that's back and forth. And so if you want to communicate, the first thing you do is you listen rather than to say your part. And sometimes, it seems really obvious, but some people, it doesn't occur to them that they need to stop, sit back, be quiet, and understand where the other person is coming from. And don't make speeches. Communication is back and forth, and it's tiring sometimes. It's complicated sometimes. And as adults, for our kids' sake, we need to do that work and be that careful. The real need is to be effective, which means stick to the issue. Don't go all over the place. Well, when I was a kid, I used to, or I know how your mom did it, la la la. Stick to the issue. Don't bring up the past, and let's take care of the kids today. Need for clarity. So be interested. Want to get clear what the other person is thinking and wanting. Sometimes it's so tragic. I'll work with a couple, and what comes out, the first statement the other person kind of bridles at it or is frustrated or whatever. But if we stop and really listen and then look at what the person is really caring about, then it's like, oh, well, that's what I think too. It was said in a different manner. So those are kind of wonderful discoveries when we do those with each other. But sometimes we don't ever get around to communicating with this intelligent a manner to look at how many layers we're interacting with or wanting to talk about or how we do it. That's why I wanted to give you this. It's just 2 pages. Ask me, email me, text me. I'll send it to you, okay? Accountability, which means take responsibility rather than blaming. And that's a whole nother topic, as you and I know. Solutions, negotiate. Try to figure out what are we going to do rather than being conflictual or critical or just stepping out. Say, let's figure this out. We got to negotiate this. We got to get there for our kids. And then safety. So we don't want violent verbal, physical, emotional, spiritual. You need to take a timeout if you get that heated. So there's your quick introduction to communication, because the foundation of being able to parent together, like when parents don't agree about parenting, then it's really important that you figure out how to find your way to be a team, to be a partnership, to be on the same page so that you decide to change your style to meet what the kids need best. Because both of you, if you disagree, probably both of you have a piece of it, but not the whole picture. You know that. You've seen this a lot probably, maybe you do it yourself, where one parent is too lenient and the other one is too strict. The truth is we need to be both lenient and strict, and how we do that, we need to be in agreement about it. And so if we can't get past bad communication, we're not ever going to get into agreement and figure out where are we going to hold the line and have strong boundaries, and where are we going to be kind and generous and lenient. So here, this is top parenting resources, so this is where it is on my website. Wanted you to have that. So as I was talking about the way of communicating, one of the things that gets in our way is low emotional intelligence, where we get defensive. And so if you would like, I'll send you this handout. It's on emotional manipulation, and these are the 5 general controlling defense patterns that we typically use. Some of us have one favorite or 2 or 3, or some of us do all of them. But this, when we are defensive and we're not confident and stay intelligent, then we get into frustration, defensiveness, anger, and tantrums, and doesn't solve any problems, doesn't go anywhere other than becoming conflictual, and therefore parents not agreeing about parenting. So notice right here, defensiveness can be a lack of safety, bonding, compassion, flexibility or adaptability, self-mastery, problem-solving abilities, etc. It's often low emotional intelligence for various reasons, and some of them are there. Notice at the bottom of the page I put defensiveness can also be a lack of ability to look at themselves and a continual blame of others. When that happens, you're in trouble, and I would want you to talk to a professional, a counselor, a clergy person, a school counselor, a teacher, or a parenting mentor, because if one person won't do anything other than blame, you're going to have a hard time negotiating. So these are the 5 general victim strategies. People who blame, usually it's a frustration, a lack of control, a lack of flexibility, or a lack of self-mastery, which means they're feeling powerless and like a victim. and with a lack of problem-solving abilities, which equals fear, anger, and defense tantrums. So what we want is handling ourselves with emotional intelligence. And so instead of being, if I start up here over the top, the caretaker who tries to manipulate and control with fixing what's wrong, we want to be a helper who is individuated with good boundaries and the ability to say no. Instead of being the martyr where that person is self-pitying, blaming, plays poor little old me, we want the achiever who listens, stays informed, and helps to think things through logically. The one down here on the bottom right, the runner, this person is an avoider. They freeze, they fly, they use passive-aggressive behaviors, they refuse to talk, they go away, they shut down. Instead of that, we want them to be communicative and a peacemaker, which means they can calmly stay there, calmly listen, and withstand the intensity of the engagement. Then we've got the judge, the person who is intolerant, judgmental, criticizing, and resentful. We want instead to be responsible. That kind of person wants what is right, good, and true. So let's be an exemplar, respectful of others and their beliefs, being open-minded, confident, willing, and accountable, as well as honorable. And then the fifth is the bully. This is the person who fights and rages, blames and controls with intimidation. They can be coercive and hostile and dominating. Instead, we want all that energy that goes into trying to control in a leader who implements, sees the big picture, that has courageous self-control or just natural self-control, and takes leadership to figure out, okay, what do? We want to solve the problem. So these two dynamics emotionally often can get in our way if we're not emotionally intelligent, we don't know how to handle ourselves without getting defensive. So I wanted to share with you one of my favorite resources. So when we looked at this list of parenting resources, I want to show you where to go, because very often what happens when you're, and I'll show you that in a minute, what happens when you're in conflict as parents about parenting your kids, it means that there's something missing. Probably both of you have something missing. And so if you want to, in essence, convince the other parent of something that they have missing, as well as be convinced by someone about what you're missing, what we want to do is go to a third party. Some of us don't like to read much, so then websites are really excellent for that. Sometimes a parenting class itself, if there's one available where you are, is just great, because then it involves other people, a teacher, answering questions, conversation, questioning, listening to other people's problems, which oftentimes comforts us and helps us to relax. So you need, when you're in conflict about how to parent, I want you to have the best information so that both of you come to a place where you agree, oh, this is what's the best for our child. How do we do it? So instead of arguing or being in conflict and fighting, okay, how do we do this? That's where I want people to come when I'm trying to help them learn to parent. I want them to come together and be really interested because they found a source of information that is obviously to them absolutely wonderful. So my most wonderful sources of parenting, this one right here, Kids in the House. Oh my gosh. This woman, when I found her, I was floored. There are over 9,000 parenting videos from pregnancy to college from over 450 experts and parents. So this lovely woman has made it her job, her task, her calling, her mission in life to gather up all of the best of the best. So if you like videos, and usually videos are the fastest way to learn and to be taught, this one at the top of the list is just the best. And right here, of course, she's got my very favorite in the whole world, developmental psychologist, Dr. Gordon Neufeld. So that's my first, whoops, I think I just, no, lost the whole thing. Okay, I'm going to bring that back for you. Because I want to make sure that you get, I just walk you through all of those wonderful things that I've discovered over the years. Because of course I'm always teaching about parenting, because all of us, whether or not we're a parent, if we're around kids or if I'm around couples, I want to know, okay, where do we go that's the best? I don't want to waste my time. So here we go. That was Kids in the House, all the videos. The Momentis Institute is actually here in Dallas. It is the beneficiary of all of the funds earned by the famous Byron Nelson golf tournament. And so the Momentis Institute is superlative quality. They have wonderful employees, and they provide all kinds of services to the Dallas, Fort Worth area parents, kids, teachers, agencies. Then we've got, this one is the Alberta Family Wellness Initiative. So this initiative combines material, the best of the best, with the researchers and the professors and teachers from Alberta, where I went. My first alma mater is in Edmonton, Alberta, and which is Canada's Texas. Forgive me, Canada. Along with Harvard. So these minds are pairing with each other every week to create materials. Look at this, how beautiful it is. Materials that are attractive to anyone, even if a person doesn't read very much. It's a gigantic resource of great information. Some of it may be a bit researchy or scholarly. And then, of course, as I mentioned, Dr. Gordon Neufeld, my very favorite developmental psychologist. And he has an online university, and see here, for eight languages. And if I go into English, then there's a conference right there. And there are huge lists of resources for parents, educators, and helping professionals. And that means that if you, as a parent, you want to learn something, here's parent education. And so an overview of the parenting education that they offer. And then, of course, there are, I'm looking for their list. There's a huge list of courses online, and you can bring people in to teach your school, your group of parents. So just glance at this list. Look at all of these courses. Now, these are courses that you can go anytime you want and go at your own pace online. You register with the Neufeld Institute, and voila. So that's some of the best of the best. And as you can tell, it's very deep materials. Some people don't want materials that deep or that which take that much time. That's when I want you to go back to the video encyclopedia. I also want you to go to the Great Parenting Show, parentfurther.com, which is from the Search Institute. Let's see, our time is getting close. Okay, I've got a guest question. Yay! Hi, Kathy. When it comes to parenting, would you explain compromising versus striking a bargain? It seems to me that a true compromise is more permanent and therefore better for our child than bargaining. What are your thoughts? I'm referring to compromise/bargaining between the parents. Well, I don't like bargaining. I mean, that's manipulative. If you do this, then I'll do that. That's tit for tat. That's for kids. I don't want adults to bargain. I want you to make decisions based on both of you knowing what's best for your child at that moment. Now that is a whole nother ball of wax in itself, depending on what it is that you're compromising or bargaining on. I don't want you to just compromise. I don't want you to bargain. I want you to know what is the best thing for your child at that point in their growth, what their brain is developing, and what it is that they really need for healthy mind food and for healthy parenting from two intelligent, loving parents who really know what they're doing. So, compromising and striking a bargain, that just says you guys aren't agreeing. And that says that you don't have the knowledge to say, this is what our child needs. Okay, how are we going to get there? And have a plan of that. That's why I want parents to have parenting conversations way before it starts, so that you know when your kid is going to come up with certain pressing, certain trying to do what the other kids do, and you know that's the worst thing in the world, that you predicted that and you're about 5 steps ahead of them. That's what my hope is for our parents. So I want you to have more information so that you're both sure that you're doing the right thing. And what if you don't agree? Exactly. That's exactly why I'm talking about that tonight. If you don't agree, you're missing information. Because truly and honestly, we do know now what our kids need that is right for them. And when you find what's right and why it's right, you can't help but agree. So then, I don't know what your personalities are. I don't know how old your kids are. I don't know how strenuously you guys agree. You said, oh, I see. Yes, good. Because who you are as individuals, as a mom and a dad, that's a whole huge field of stuff, which is why this topic is so huge and so complicated and so disconcerting. Which means I usually want to mentor people because I want to know who you are first. Because I want to know what your pushback is. Because when you're disagreeing, you're pushing back. And that means like you're looking at your husband and saying, you're too tough or you're too strict. Or, oh, you're too passive. You're too permissive. This is just letting the kids run our lives. Or he says about you, you're too mean, or you're too angry, or you're too negative, or you're just a doormat. So we don't want you to be either one. We want you to know creative solutions and to have things for the kids where it's not yes or no answer. You've got some plans with about 4 or 5 different options that the kids kind of like shake their head and do a double take. It's like, oh, well, that's interesting. I want you to have some things to pull out of your back pocket that get your kids' attention because it's really interesting. So there's the Alberta Family Wellness Initiative, which is along with Harvard, Gordon Neufeld, the Gurian Institute. Now, the Gurian Institute is just wonderful. Michael Gurian, this wonderful man, and his institute have devoted themselves to understanding the difference between, here's one of them, the minds of boys and girls. And what we know now, and these people are some of the chief researchers, a classroom for a boy's success and a classroom for a girl's success are completely different environments. Of course, we can't just start over and destroy our schools, but as parents, we can get this knowledge immediately. So Dr. Michael Gurian's works, his books, he's got oodles of books, and if you've got problems right now with a son, get the books on the boy. If you've got problems with a girl or a daughter, get the books on the feminine. And if you don't read, if neither one of you read, oh my gosh, go to the videos and watch them. And watch them together and then say, well, I didn't know that. It's like, well, see, I told you. I'm asking you to do work. And you're already, if you're parents in these times, tired. So I'm just telling you what I know is the truth. The Search Institute is again one of the great sources of, it's the best as far as I know, research on what kids need at what stage of their life. So there are 40 developmental assets our kids need, 20 internal, 20 external. I have a questionnaire for that. And their research, their tools are endless. Do I have it here? Yeah, here it is. This is them. And look at this. Free downloads for you. The 40 assets, they tell you exactly what each child needs at which age. I don't know if I can grab this. If I can grab something immediately. No, I don't want to sign in. But I have some of these at my office that I share with parents all the time. And I have a big poster and I have some of their materials. And I've got a handout for you. But this is a checklist that you can go through to say, oh, our child doesn't have that. How do we want to do that? So that's another one where you can go and you can get really clear on, I don't know if I've lost my list here or not. There's my list. The Great Parenting Show, she is just wonderful. She has interviews. So if you like to listen to interviews, if you're doing housework or if you're driving, you can pull this up and listen to the interviews with people talking about all kinds of topics. So they've got an expert, they've got people questioning. It's very informative. We've got the Harvard Center on the Developing Child, and that's part of the association with the Alberta Wellness Center, Family Wellness Center. And then we've got a USA.gov site. And .gov, it's wonderful, helping America's youth. It's deep, wide, complicated. So the materials, when you don't agree, we do have the materials, and if you've got a computer or a phone, you can get to it immediately. So that's my fastest, most concise introduction to helping when parents don't agree about parenting. And I'm so thankful that our guest Kathy chimed in with the perfect question, right? Probably a question that many of you would ask as well. Thank you so much for tuning in tonight. And as always, know yourself, treasure life, and love others. Good. I got it done. So thank you. Good night.